Hey, this is Justin Thomsen with Slate Accounting, presenting my masterclass, Accounting in a Crisis. And I know that everyone is very, very, very excited to talk about accounting. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and get this party started. So unless you've been, living in isolation or under a rock for the past few months, then you know we're in a current economic situation, probably like nothing we've ever seen before. And for business owners, this is really a pivotal time for you and your business. So we need to make some tough decisions. We need to make some hard decisions on how we're going to move forward. And business is probably never really going to be the same again. The way we do things, the new normal, is going to be very, very different than what we're used to. But there's going to be great opportunities and great ways for us to move forward. So it's not all doom and gloom from this point on. I did come across this great quote from Teddy Roosevelt. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. So we're not going to just sit around as business owners and do nothing and, curl up in a fetal position and hope this all goes away. We need to take action. And that's kind of what I want to help you kind of guide you through. And hopefully, since we've been kind of dealing with this for the last couple of months and it's really hitting us hard now, as business owners, that you've kind of already done a little bit of this analysis, and hopefully you're a little bit ahead of the game. And maybe this is just kind of a review, and I'm going to keep it real high level and just kind of go through what we do for our clients and maybe how you can utilize that same process in your business. So really what you want to do is kind of get that current state of your business and get that pulse on your business of where you are now. As I say, you need to know where you came from in order to get where you're going. So you need to know your past, and then we'll kind of help make models, risk analysis to kind of help the business predict, even in these uncertain times, potentially what could happen. So there's really three options for you on kind of getting that current pulse of your business. You can just go to your financial institution, so banks and credit card companies, and download the bank statements, PDF. You can print those out. You can put them into Excel or a CSV file. If you happen to print them out, you can spread them across the kitchen table by month. And, we're all working at home, so you can occupy the whole kitchen table with all your bank statements and credit card statements. And really what you want to do is go for the last year at least, is go through line by line. And if you have to, just highlight those abnormal expenses or, the ones that you're kind of questioning. A lot of times what we do is, especially in the subscription economy that we live in, you sign up for Dropbox and it's charged to your card every month. So you really just kind of become used to it and you kind of forget about it. So really you want to make sure that you're highlighting those expenses, just keep in the back of your mind, and we'll go through this in the next slide here, but you kind of want to keep in mind those expenses that you potentially could get rid of, and then kind of those ones that are essential to operating your business. Next option, you can have your accounting software do it. And if your accounting software is accurate, so most of our clients are up to date, real time, almost every day, at least reconciled. So we download out of our accounting software. We happen to use Xero, which is a competitor of QuickBooks. A lot of people are using QuickBooks, but you can still use the same process as you go through this. What you can do is download the income statement, export it to Excel, and that would kind of give you the general guideline of where all your expenses have been in the last year. And so, advertising, meals, entertainment, office expense, payroll, it'll give you some general buckets, as I call it, to kind of start analyzing, why am I spending X dollars in advertising? Why am I doing this in, why am I spending so much on meals, entertainment? And it just kind of gives you that guideline of where you should really be looking and focusing your time on. And then the third option is kind of use a trusted advisor. Obviously, I'm biased towards CPAs. I think CPAs are awesome. And you can utilize your trusted advisor, your CPA, to help you kind of sift through all this financial data. And hopefully they've been doing that on a consistent basis with you. But a lot of times with business owners, if you're doing the accounting yourself, you wait till December and you kind of get all that data in the last minute and put it in your QuickBooks and submit it to your tax preparer, and you move on with your life. So maybe now's the time to kind of have better, more accurate books, to kind of do things more timely, so that you can really analyze your current situation and kind of really get that pulse of your business. I mean, now out of all times is a time you want to have accurate data, especially if you're applying for any of those PPP loans, and we'll kind of get in those later. But if you're applying for any sort of loans, like I said, the PPP, SBA idle loan, you want to make sure you have very, very detailed financial records, especially on the PPP, because that has the potential to, there's a forgivable portion of that. And I won't go into too much detail, but now's the best time. I can't reiterate that enough, that now's the best time to make sure you have very, very accurate accounting records. So kind of once you go through this, like I said, you go through just straight through bank statements. That's an option. Highlight your stuff, write it on a piece of paper. If you're more tech savvy, use Excel, or use your accounting software if you think it's accurate. Export that data out and sift through it that way, preferably in Excel. And then third, you can use a trusted advisor to kind of help you navigate this data and put it into kind of a more meaningful presentation. So after you've kind of gathered all this data, you have it all on a napkin or in an Excel spreadsheet or whatever works best for you. It's time to analyze the data. So what you want to do is kind of break things out into core expenses. So what are the things that you absolutely need to run your business? And that could just be at the very basic level, because currently, I mean, there's some businesses out there doing really well. There's some businesses out there not doing so well. So you need to just say what's specific for your business. What are those core expenses? Is that rent? Is that a certain vendor that you need to pay to get your product? Is that a certain vendor you need for service? I mean, you need to figure that out. What can you not live without? And you need to be honest with yourself. And then you come up with some variable expenses. These are the ones that these just fluctuate. So a manufacturer, for example, if you're in a good time and you're manufacturing and you're productive and you have a ton of orders, well, your costs are going to rise with your sales. And then as you start to stop producing, your costs will go down with your sales. That's how it should be. And so those variable expenses, you need to kind of pick those out and predict, with your risk analysis that you'll want to do is predict best case scenario, worst case scenarios, and those variable costs will kind of fluctuate. And you want to make sure that you have those identified to help you with analysis. And then after you've kind of gone through all these expenses, you want to get into the ones you want to cut. And some of these are going to be hard. I mean, this might be employees, underperforming employees that you should have probably terminated, months ago. This could be just meals, entertainment, things that are really unnecessary at this time. And those are just ones you want to have a good, honest look in the mirror and say, okay, I can deal with not having these. And those are the first ones you want to cut. And then what you want to do with this data is just kind of predict, and I'll kind of go into this in the next section on cash flow, but you want to come up with a risk analysis. So best case scenario, worst case scenario, and really have that for the whole year. So I'll move into this topic. Next is the cash flow side. And this is kind of where you'll use that model. You want to predict very, very simple, very high level. You just want to say, currently, how much cash do I have coming in? How much cash do I have going out? And then, what's left over. There could be a shortage, or you could have a surplus. So currently you want to make sure you conserve as much cash as possible. So you want to conserve that pipeline of cash coming in, and you want to make sure that that cash going out, you're spending it very specifically on only those core expenses, and you're not spending it on frivolous things like meals, entertainment. for your business, you know what those are. Um, and then in that same conserve, maintain, you just want to maybe talk to your customers, see which ones are still going to pay you, which ones that you might want to take a cut on. And it's a way that you can still preserve cash flow, and maybe it's not 100% of what you normally would have got, but you can maybe work out an agreement or arrangement with some of your current customers or clients and say, okay, well, I realize you can't pay 100% of this month's invoice, or but you can maybe pay half of it or a quarter of it. I always say, $1 is better than $0. So if you can somehow still maintain some cash flow, help some of your customer clients out, I mean, that's kind of a win-win, especially when we don't know when this thing's going to turn around, but we need to make sure that we, like I said, maintain and serve cash flow at all costs, because we really have no clue when this is going to turn around. But not doom and gloom. There'll be some opportunities I'll talk about at the end. So once you go through and just a basic level, how much cash coming in, how much cash is going out, there could be a gap. And with that gap, there's assistance that you can do. So some of the three I've kind of highlighted here is the Paycheck Protection Plan, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or the EIDL loan, and then potentially a line of credit. There's also a couple other ways you could help conserve cash. You could talk to, if you're paying rent, you could ask for a rent reduction, or you could have that rent move maybe extended onto your lease, maybe add it to the end of your lease for a couple months. There's a lot of companies out there that are helping you abate that rent to forego it for a few months. So it's always worth talking, and don't get too sad if you get denied. I mean, that's just, they have bills to pay as well. So but it's an honest conversation you can have with some of your vendors. Is maybe we'll pay half or not as much. I mean, it's something you need to work out. And then same with any debt obligations, you could talk to your bank or credit card company and see if you can kind of extend those terms and not accrue any penalties or fees. So really you have to get out there and hit the pavement running and talk to some of your main vendors on this. So when you get to that gap, there's also the Paycheck Protection Plan, which kind of is all over the place. I mean, this law is changing pretty much every day. It's tough to keep up on. You got to keep monitoring it, and then you think one thing's going to happen, and then something else happens, and we saw that with the Paycheck Protection Plan. So many businesses applied for this. The system was overwhelmed. Some of the technology wasn't really working. It was confusing, and then a handful, or probably not a handful, but a lot of people got the loan, but a lot of people didn't. And it's people that applied at the same time. And I have clients that applied exactly at the same bank at the same time, and one of them got it, and one got, like, oh, sorry, we ran out of funds. And that's kind of the disheartening thing for this Paycheck Protection Plan, especially for those businesses that need it, is that we don't know if more funds are going to be put into it. I believe Congress is talking about that today, and it might have already been established that they're going to fund more into this PPP, which is great news. So if you did not get the funds, talk to your financial institution, your bank, and ask them just to make sure you're still in line and your application's still valid. Make sure you have everything documented and you're ready to go. So if there is a second round of funds, that you're first in line, because we did see that this just went, I mean, boom, like that. All those funds were gone, dispersed to businesses. And now we're starting to see, a couple interesting things from that. There's a couple larger companies, larger restaurants that, they're giving $10 million back because, they didn't know they weren't supposed to apply for it, or whatever is happening on that. So hopefully that this money goes into the businesses that actually need it. And then there's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So this is the EIDL loan. And this is two different loans from the SBA. The PPP has the potential to be forgiven. And again, I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but 75% of the total loan cost can be used on payroll, and then 25% can be used on utilities, rent. But for most of our clients, I mean, almost 100% of that cost is probably going to go to payroll, because the PPP loan is calculated off of payroll cost. So I couldn't imagine there would be any extra left over. And that's over a 2.5 month period. And again, if you have the PPP, you need to make sure that you keep very, very detailed accounting records, because the last thing you want to do is have to pay those funds back when you didn't need to. And, because your records were lackluster, you want to make sure that you are tracking every single penny of these funds that you're using and ensuring that you're using it for the right thing. And then for the economic injury disaster loan, still an SBA loan, but this can be used to help. I mean, it really can be used for anything for your business. The terms are favorable. I think it's 3.75%. And so those are two things that you could talk to your bank or the SBA about, and that can help kind of fill in that gap of that cash flow. There's also a line of credit. You could talk to your bank, and usually for a couple $100, a fee of a couple $100, you usually can get $50,000 to $100,000 on a line of credit. But I mean, that really just depends on your personal situation, your business. So it's terrible to have to go into debt, but we do have to do what we have to do to maintain our business, for our communities, for our employees, and just for our own livelihood. We got to make sure that we're continue on and we don't go under. So those are some opportunities. Cash flow. So just kind of like summarize real quick. You want to analyze your core costs, see what you absolutely need, what you don't need, and then take that, kind of go into predictive analysis on cash flow. So how much cash do you need to cover those core costs? How much cash can you conserve by, talking to some of your vendors, some of your customers, to make sure you're on the receiving end of cash and you're not pumping a bunch of cash out. And then also, if there's a gap in your cash flow, you can look at some of these other Paycheck Protection Plan, economic injury disaster loan, or the line of credit. And those are some of your options. I mean, even if you really had to get crazy, you could get 0% interest credit cards and transfer some of your existing debt to that. But I would kind of exhaust some of these other options first before you do that. So out of this, semi doom and gloomish stuff, and hopefully that gave you enough things kind of analyze and figure out and work with your trusted advisor, CPA, or your business partner. But now the good part is that there's opportunities always in chaos. There's always opportunities. I just read somewhere that some of these local distilleries, they pivoted, as we like to use in the business world. They pivoted, and now they're, instead of making strictly alcohol, they're doing hand sanitizer, which is pretty creative. And some of those businesses could have really, really suffered, and now maybe there's an opportunity for them to kind of conserve some of their cash temporarily, and maybe, who knows, maybe they'll stay in the hand sanitizer business forever. I'm not actually sure. But now's the time to reflect, kind of, where you came from, where you want to go, really, really analyze your current business and really think about new opportunities that you might have available to you right now. I mean, where one door shuts, another one opens. And that's kind of a philosophy I've always used, is that there's always an opportunity, especially in chaos. So now's the time to maybe adapt new technology. We've been using remote cloud-based technology since at least 2014 for our firm. So this really isn't a change for us, but the dynamics is different. Your family's at home, your kids are running around, you're trying to get work done, and you're trying to work in all this change. And technology is here to help you, as long as you utilize it correctly. Technology can be a huge catapult for your business. So maybe really take a hard look at new technology and think about how that can help your business, especially in times like this. And then also maybe streamline your processes, really dive into a process, really take a look at it, and see, how can you make it faster, better, more profitable, especially with most of our clients are, you know, their labor force is dwindled a little bit. They had to lay some people off, or, it's a very uncertain time. So maybe you can streamline your process to kind of do more with less. And then most importantly is to keep calm. And, America, Nevada, uh, we are very, very resilient. And I know we're going to get through this. So we just need to keep calm, take those baby steps, and just remember that your business is a long-term strategy and not a short-term. This is just a short-term hiccup. You're going to get through this. I guarantee it. And I'll see you all on the other side. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I appreciate you all listening. Take care.